Nickcastology.
Welcome to the Tiny Sode for Nick. It's me.
It's all for you.
It's your boy. But I'm not my thing. So I'm here with, as always,
Zancy Weber.
and
Elizabeth Best.
now you two with your mini-sodes have done your your favorite episodes that like each host has recommended.
That we've not
that
recommended
we've not
ourselves.
recommended.
Yes.
And so I'm going to continue that trend at another time.
Oh.
So my one today is going to be music shows, and the reason that I'm choosing these, and to be honest, rehashing these as well, is because it was a podcast that you recommended, Zane, which was the DIY Musician podcast.
Yes.
Which I thought was a completely fascinating and very easy to listen to show. And I was going to leave it at the end as my little kind of like punchline, but I felt that it deserved to be at the top of this particular list because I found listening to it with its advice, with its how down to earth the show is itself, and the actual things that they talk about didn't so much inspire me, but more spur me to get back into creating. Yeah, exactly. And I didn't think it would be this show that would do that. I really didn't. I thought I was just going to be floating in this big black void, which I probably will in the future anyway. But this particular show, the more I listened to it, and even if I wasn't completely tuned into it, I found myself hearing the things that I needed to hear or wanted to hear, and then using that as little bits and pieces to motivate myself to open up, my door and get to work.
So did you?
I did. I ended up releasing 2 tracks over a weekend because I just got bored, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to use some of the pieces of advice and some of the experiences, and I ended up releasing stuff. And for me, it was very much.
Do you want us to link to that in this episode?
Yeah, go for it. Why not? It's just schlocky ambient shit, but whatever. Someone might enjoy it. Who knows?
Self-deprecate.
Put it down.
No, you created it.
But I mean, that was the thing. Like one of the episodes says, like if you've got one task, do that task for the day. And so I did. I sat down and I was like, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with this particular effect.
It's less overwhelming.
It is.
Yeah,
but
that's
also
my life. As I go, oh my god, so many tasks. I'll just sit here for 6 hours.
Yeah, and I think for me it was very much a taking it one step at a time. So if I only was fiddling around with this effect for an hour, I did it for an hour. I did not do it. I did it, and I may not have gotten the result that I wanted, but that's fine. But I also went into it with the mindset of just fuck it. So I got to a point where I was like, if I make something and I'm perfectly happy with it, just fucking release it. Don't let it sit. Just release it and release the pressure. And it was all because of that show, really. And that was just I found it quite fascinating when I was trying to work out.
You should send this to them.
Yeah,
I think they would love to know that their podcast is like inspiring the masses.
Yeah, no, 100%. So yeah, DIY Musician podcast. Thanks to Zane. My other recommendation is Song Exploder, which is a phenomenal podcast that I recommended. Oh God, maybe 2 years ago now. Fucking hell.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones that you.
Yeah, it was back when we were in the Podloft.
Oh God, the Podloft. I'll never forget that.
Before we had a studio.
Some torturous time.
I mean, it was great.
I loved the Podloft, but being in like a profesh studio just makes me feel schmick every time I come in here.
It is pretty good. So this particular show is just a track by track dissection of famous musicians' songs. It ended up getting made into a Netflix show from memory as well, which is quite good. Not as good as the podcast itself, but I found this one in particular was really, really strong.
I remember really enjoying that too.
Yeah.
Like just the way that they kind of showed you the layering of the tracks and like stripped it all back. And because it's the actual people, you're getting like full on access to their process.
I mean, that's the thing. I think that this one, it was great podcast, great concept. For me, it only worked on the ones that I already knew and had an attachment to. I couldn't discover new artists through it.
Yep. Now, I just got locked out of my iCloud, so I have to go onto my phone to look at the rest of them. My other 2 recommendations for this are Tiny Desk Concerts, another show that I recommended. Very straightforward. It is NPR's basically live shows with artists that come in and play at a tiny desk with a band or solo.
See, I liked the YouTube of that, but the podcast gave me nothing. Because I want to see the tiny desk.
But that's the thing, it does have the YouTube as a companion to that. So I do recommend that, obviously, with the big star of watching YouTube. And the other recommendation I had was Dissect, which is a Spotify podcast that is, it's the sole focus of each season is pulling apart albums per season. So they've done Kanye West's Jesus, Mac Miller's Swimming, I'm pretty sure, and I'm blanking on the rest. But it is an absolutely fascinating show. I do tend to gravitate away from Spotify original shows because I find Spotify tends to just go, who's popular, what's popular, pay them shitloads of money, and then make podcasts.
It's podcast by algorithm.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But you can
Which
still
makes me
find good
sad.
stuff
Yeah,
in there.
yeah, exactly. And I think Dissect is a really good example of that. I just kind of wish it wasn't Spotify
So
that
is
had
it
its name attached to it.
one album per episode or per season?
Per season. So
Okay,
season 9 is
yeah.
literally like 13 episodes of Mac Miller's Swimming. I think it's basically the same 13 episodes for Yeezus
That's
as well.
really good for artists in the sense that a lot of artists are getting the shits lately that because of places like Spotify.
Yeah.
Just Spotify. Spotify is the industry leader.
Yeah,
And most of the market.
because of Spotify, people aren't listening to things per album. And I think, what was the artist recently that got the shuffle take off option
Adele?
taken off?
That was Adele with her new album.
Yeah, because you should listen to this. Like, they craft albums to be listened to in a certain order for certain reasons. And so shuffle is no longer the default option.
But the only reason that they can do that is because it's Adele.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't message Spotify and be like, hey, I've made this beautifully crafted ambient wank album.
Ambient wank, is that what it's called?
Oh, maybe. Can you please put it in this format? Spotify would be like, yeah, we'll just mark that one as read and move on.
Yeah, you're fucked.
But yeah, those are my music shows that I've kind of reconnected with as well. It's interesting because listening to the DIY Musician podcast made me reconnect with my work, but also made me reconnect with shows that I hadn't listened to for quite a long time. So
Does that mean that your love of podcasts is slowly coming back alive again, slowly?
yeah. Oh no, I 100% would think so.
Yeah,
And I
good.
think also it's because I think the focus of everything that we've been doing over the last couple of weeks has been trying to find those shows. And
this is the thing,
Yeah.
like when podcasts, this became work. This
Yeah.
became
Yeah.
a job for all of us. And so it's these, last few months have been all about us finding the joy in something that is actually work. But, podcasts are joyous when you find ones that you connect with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And honestly, the reason I started this podcast was that there were so many podcasts and there's no way to find them except by looking for them.
Yeah.
And so this is a great way. Honestly, this is a great way for me to have two people finding great podcasts and throwing them at me.
I mean, same.
But it's like, who knows what you find, right? You might find your own DIY musician podcast.
Yeah.
Who knows? Or even something that you connect with on a
I
narrative
mean,
level.
I found Terms. Terms
Yeah.
is still probably my favorite podcast of all time. So
Yeah. never
Make
forget
more
terms.
terms.
Thrilling Adventure Hour. I don't know. They're two very different products.
Very, very different. Terms was just such a lightning in a bottle,
Yeah.
perfect format, short, made you anyway. This is the Nickcast.
This is
it's
my
not about
podcast.
this is not,
Not
about
the terms
that.
cast. Ooh, although. Anyway, we won't get into that. So yeah, my recommendations: Song Exploder, Dissect, Tiny Desk Concerts, and DIY Musician Podcast. All music. So if you're feeling a bit out of whack or you're looking for a bit of inspiration for music, those 4 are on the money.
Excellent.
Gold.
And if you have a music podcast you want us to
Yes,
review or listen to, or specifically just for Nick to find inspiration for his music,
Yeah, please.
send it through on social media or that'snotcanon.com/castology, fill out the form, or give us a 5-star review
Yeah.
and just put the title in there, and we really appreciate it. We do it on Apple Podcasts, or you can do it on Podchaser, or wherever you can leave a review. On Podbean, I think, lets you do reviews
Honestly,
now.
anywhere that lets
Yeah.
you do a review, screenshot it and send it to us because we appreciate it so much, and it really makes us want to do the best that we want to do the best that we can anyway, but it just makes us feel nice and warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
So-
well, it inspires us to
It
do
does.
more.
Yeah.
Because,
We just go, we helped someone find a podcast that they love. Great.
It
Excellent.
feeds us.
Job done.
It feeds us.
And we're hungry. No.
Well, actually, not hungry after that terrific Mexican, but anyway. So I've been one of your hosts, Nick Pleaker. Across me has been.
Zane C. Weber.
Liz
And-
Best.
Keep listening to podcasts, people.
Hi, I'm Abby, and this is Alan.
Hello.
We're from the Lunatics Radio Hour podcast, where we explore the history of horror and modern horror storytelling.
We do deep dives into legends like ghost trains, or the Headless Horseman, or Wendigos,
Available wherever you listen to podcasts.
including cell phones and computers.